In the wide and ancient galaxy, thousands of intelligent species lived among the stars. Some had ruled space for tens of thousands of years. Their empires stretched across hundreds of systems. Their fleets were massive, their technology powerful, and their history long. Compared to them, humanity was almost nothing. Earth was a small blue world sitting near the edge of explored space. For most advanced civilizations, it was just another young planet with a newly developed species trying to reach the stars. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel a short time ago compared to the ancient races. Because of this, the galaxy did not take them seriously. In the Galactic Council records, humanity was often described with simple words: young, emotional, unpredictable, and weak. Many species believed humans were too divided to become a serious power. Their planet had once been full of wars, political struggles, and economic problems. Even after they reached space, their ships were small and their fleets were limited. Other civilizations built battleships the size of cities. Humans built ships the size of buildings. Because of this, most alien observers assumed humanity would stay a minor species for a very long time. But humans had one quality the galaxy never fully understood. They were patient. The first time humans appeared before the Galactic Council, many delegates expected loud speeches and proud claims. Instead, the human representatives were calm and quiet. They listened more than they spoke. They asked questions. They studied everything. They carefully watched the politics of the galaxy. Some council members thought humans were simply nervous or inexperienced. Others believed humans were trying to hide their weaknesses. But the truth was very different. Humans were learning. While other species proudly showed their military strength, humanity slowly built their future in silence. Their shipyards were hidden deep inside asteroid belts. Their research stations floated inside dark nebula clouds. Their engineers worked in secret facilities far from the eyes of foreign observers. Year after year, humans expanded their technology. Their scientists experimented with new engines, powerful weapons, and advanced defenses. Their industrial systems slowly grew stronger. But very few outsiders noticed. Most alien traders who visited Earth saw only small cargo ships and simple patrol vessels. These ships were good for trade and exploration, but they were nothing compared to the giant war fleets used by major powers. Because of this, the galaxy believed Earth was harmless. And humans did nothing to change that belief. Many powerful empires ignored humanity completely. To them, Earth was a young civilization still learning how the galaxy worked. Humans traded resources, shared basic technology, and slowly built relationships with nearby species. They rarely made threats. They rarely showed aggression. Instead, they behaved like a peaceful and curious people trying to find their place among older civilizations. The strategy worked perfectly. Over time, the galaxy stopped watching them closely. Observers moved their attention to bigger powers. Political conflicts between ancient empires became far more important than a small blue planet near the frontier. Humanity slowly faded into the background of galactic politics. And that was exactly what humans wanted. Far away from the crowded star systems of the galaxy, beyond the outer edge of the Sol system, something enormous was being built. Hidden among drifting asteroids and dark clouds of space dust, thousands of construction drones worked without rest. Giant shipyard platforms slowly connected massive pieces of metal and advanced alloys. Each piece was enormous. Each section was larger than a human city. Massive reactors were installed deep inside the growing structure. Endless hangar bays were carved into its surface. Weapon systems, shield generators, and engine cores were slowly assembled piece by piece. The project had been running for decades. Only a small number of human leaders knew its true purpose. To the rest of the galaxy, nothing unusual was happening. But in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, the largest warship ever created by humanity was slowly taking shape. Back on Earth, life looked peaceful. Cities were bright and full of activity. Spaceports welcomed traders from different species. Human diplomats attended council meetings and continued their calm, careful discussions. Everything seemed normal. But far away, hidden deep in the cold outer system, the giant structure continued to grow. Every year it became larger. Every year its power increased. And every year, humanity quietly moved one step closer to a future the galaxy could not yet imagine. For now, humans remained what everyone believed them to be: a small and quiet species, a young civilization trying to survive among giants. But someday, when the time was right, the galaxy would finally discover the truth. Rocket. Far from Earth, in the crowded regions of the galaxy, fear was slowly spreading. For many years, the galaxy had enjoyed a fragile peace. The great empires watched each other carefully, but open war was rare. Trade routes connected hundreds of worlds, and the Galactic Council helped settle many conflicts before they grew too large. But that peace was beginning to break. A powerful empire known as the Dominion had started to expand. At first, the change was small. A few distant colonies suddenly stopped sending messages to their neighbors. Trade ships traveling through certain systems disappeared without explanation. Small border stations reported strange fleets moving through nearby space. Then the truth slowly became clear. The Dominion was conquering worlds. The Dominion was not a new civilization. It had existed for thousands of years, but for most of its history it stayed within its own territory. Its fleets were powerful, but its leaders rarely showed interest in large expansion. That had changed. A new ruler had taken control of the Dominion. No one outside the Empire knew much about this mysterious leader, but his orders were clear. Expand. Conquer. Control. Dominion fleets began appearing in nearby systems. Their warships were large, dark, and heavily armed. Many of them were battleships capable of destroying cities from orbit. Smaller civilizations stood no chance. When the Dominion fleet arrived at a system, it sent a simple message: surrender and join the Dominion, or be destroyed. Some worlds surrendered immediately. Their leaders believed resistance was useless against such power. Other worlds tried to fight. Those worlds burned. News of these conquests spread quickly across the galaxy. Trade routes became dangerous. Many merchants stopped traveling through the outer systems. Colonies near Dominion territory began sending emergency requests to the Galactic Council. Fear slowly reached even the powerful empires. The Dominion fleets were not only strong, they were organized, disciplined, and relentless. They moved from system to system like a storm. And the storm was growing. The Galactic Council soon called an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species gathered inside the massive council chamber. The room was enormous, built to hold delegates from many different worlds. Tall pillars of light displayed maps of the galaxy, showing the location of important star systems. Now those maps showed something new. Large red zones were spreading across the stars. Those red areas marked systems controlled by the Dominion. Every month, the red zones became larger. Council members spoke with concern and frustration. Some demanded that the Council create a united fleet to stop the Dominion. Others argued that fighting such a powerful empire would only make the situation worse. The debate continued for hours. But no one had a clear solution. Among the many delegates sitting quietly in the chamber were the human representatives. They listened carefully to every report. They studied the maps. They watched how the other species reacted. Most of the time, the humans said nothing. To many council members, humans were still considered young and inexperienced. Their opinions rarely carried much influence in important discussions. So when the humans remained silent, few people noticed. But the human delegates were paying close attention. One report in particular caught their interest. Dominion scouts had been spotted moving toward the outer frontier regions of the galaxy, toward areas close to human territory. These were not large fleets yet, only small groups of exploration ships. But everyone in the council chamber understood what that meant. The Dominion was searching for its next targets, and Earth was not far away. Some council members whispered among themselves. A few of them believed humanity should prepare to surrender early if the Dominion arrived. After all, humans did not have large fleets or powerful warships. At least, that was what everyone believed. Back in the Sol system, the news reached Earth quickly. Human leaders studied the Dominion's movements carefully. Military analysts watched every report from nearby star systems. Scientists and engineers checked old plans and secret projects. Deep within hidden command centers, quiet conversations began. Humanity had prepared for many possible threats. But now one of those threats was finally approaching. Far beyond the bright lights of Earth, the outer regions of the solar system remained silent and cold. Asteroids drifted slowly through space. Frozen dust clouds moved quietly between distant planets. Hidden among them, something enormous waited in darkness. Construction drones continued their endless work. Massive engines were tested. Gigantic weapon systems slowly powered up for the first time. For decades, the galaxy had ignored humanity. For decades, humans had quietly prepared. And now, as the Dominion fleets moved closer to human space, the time for those preparations was slowly approaching. The galaxy still believed humanity was weak. Soon, that belief would be tested. Rocket. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with tension. Bright lights from the giant star map glowed across the tall walls. The map showed hundreds of star systems across the galaxy. Many of them were peaceful worlds connected by trade routes and alliances. But now several systems on the map were colored red. Those red systems belonged to the Dominion. And every week, the red area continued to grow. Delegates from dozens of species sat in their seats, watching the map with worry. Some whispered to each other. Others looked angry or afraid. The Dominion was becoming a serious problem. For the first time in many years, the galaxy faced the possibility of a large war. At the center of the chamber stood the council speaker, an old and respected leader named Director Hale. His voice echoed clearly across the huge room. Reports confirm that the Dominion has taken 3 more systems, he announced. The room filled with quiet murmurs. These systems belonged to smaller civilizations. Their defense fleets were destroyed within hours. A few delegates lowered their heads in sadness. Everyone knew what usually happened after a Dominion attack. Cities were destroyed. Governments were replaced. And the conquered worlds became part of the Dominion Empire. Another council member stood up. His species came from a powerful trading alliance that controlled many important routes. If the Dominion continues expanding, he said, they will eventually reach our territories. We cannot allow that. Several delegates agreed. Others looked uncertain. Fighting the Dominion would be dangerous. Their fleets were strong, and their commanders were known for brutal efficiency. Some council members feared that starting a war would only make things worse. One delegate spoke carefully. Perhaps negotiation is still possible, she suggested. If we open diplomatic communication, we may be able to reach an agreement. A few heads nodded, but many others disagreed. The Dominion does not negotiate, another delegate replied. They conquer. The argument continued. Some wanted to prepare for war. Others wanted to avoid it at all costs. The council chamber slowly became louder as more voices joined the debate. During the entire discussion, the human representatives remained quiet. They sat together at their table, listening carefully to every word. Their leader was Captain Adam, a calm man with a steady voice and sharp eyes. He watched the star map silently while the debate continued. Next to him sat several other human advisors. Occasionally, they exchanged short messages on small screens, but they rarely spoke aloud. Many council members did not even notice them. To most species in the galaxy, humans were still considered a minor civilization. Their opinions rarely changed the outcome of major council decisions. So the debate continued without asking for the human view. After several hours, the council reached a difficult topic. One of the red areas on the map was getting closer to the outer frontier, closer to human space. A tall delegate from a powerful military empire stood up and pointed toward the map. The Dominion scouts have been detected near these systems, he said. These regions are close to Earth. Several delegates looked toward the human table. For the first time during the meeting, many eyes focused on Captain Adam and his team. The tall delegate continued speaking. Humanity is still a young civilization. Their fleets are small. If the Dominion decides to move toward their system, they will not be able to resist. The chamber grew quiet. No one said it directly, but everyone understood the meaning. Earth would not survive a Dominion invasion. Another council member spoke in a serious voice. For the safety of their people, humans should consider surrendering if the Dominion arrives. Some delegates nodded slowly. They believed this advice was practical. Many smaller worlds had already surrendered peacefully and avoided destruction. To them, it seemed like the smartest choice. All eyes now turned toward Captain Atom. For the first time in the meeting, the human leader slowly stood up. The room became silent. Captain Atom looked around the chamber calmly before speaking. His voice was steady and simple. "Humanity appreciates the concern of the Council," he said. He paused for a moment, looking at the large star map. "But Earth will not surrender." The chamber suddenly filled with surprised whispers. Some delegates looked shocked. Others looked confused. Captain Atom continued, "If the Dominion chooses to enter human space, we will defend our home." His words were not loud, but they were firm. Several council members exchanged doubtful looks. One delegate quietly asked, "With what fleet?" Everyone in the room knew the answer, or at least they thought they did. Human warships were small compared to the massive fleets of older civilizations. Their defenses were limited. Their military strength was considered average at best. Many believed Captain Atom was simply being brave in a hopeless situation. Captain Atom did not argue. He simply gave a small nod to the council and returned to his seat. The meeting continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Many delegates now whispered about the humans. Some believed they were foolish. Others believed they were desperate. No one imagined the truth. Far beyond the council chamber, far beyond the edge of the Sol system, humanity already had something waiting in the darkness. And when the Dominion finally arrived, the galaxy would see it. Rocket. The meeting of the Galactic Council ended with many unanswered questions. Delegates slowly left the giant chamber, talking quietly among themselves. The news about the Dominion was serious, and many leaders were worried about what might happen next. Some species began preparing their fleets. Others focused on protecting their trade routes. A few worlds even started building stronger planetary defenses. But most of them believed the Dominion would continue moving toward weaker systems first. And among those weaker systems, Earth was one of them. Outside the council building, several reporters from different civilizations waited to speak with the human representatives. Humans were not usually the center of attention in galactic news. But after Captain Atom's bold statement during the meeting, many journalists were curious. When Captain Atom walked out of the council building, cameras and recording drones quickly turned toward him. One reporter spoke first. "Captain Atom, do you really believe humanity can defend itself against the Dominion?" Another reporter added quickly, "Many experts say Earth does not have the fleet power to stop them. What is your plan?" Captain Atom remained calm. He looked at the reporters for a moment before answering. "Humanity will protect its home," he said simply. "But how?" another reporter asked. Captain Atom only gave a small smile. "You will see when the time comes." With that short answer, he politely ended the conversation and walked toward the human transport ship waiting nearby. The reporters looked confused. Some believed he was hiding fear behind confident words. Others thought he was simply trying to protect human morale. No one believed humanity actually had a real plan. Inside the human transport ship, the atmosphere was very different. The moment the doors closed, Captain Atom's calm expression became serious. Several human officers were already waiting in the command room. Large screens displayed star maps and incoming reports from many systems. One officer quickly spoke. "Dominion scout ships have been detected again near the frontier." Another officer added, "Their movements suggest they're studying possible invasion routes." Captain Atom nodded slowly. "Have they entered human space yet?" "Not yet," the officer replied. "But they're getting closer." The room became quiet for a moment. Everyone understood what that meant. Sooner or later, the Dominion would arrive. Captain Atom walked toward the large star map on the wall. He studied the glowing points of light carefully. Human space was still small compared to the massive territories of older empires. But every system shown on the map represented millions of people living normal lives. Cities, families, children. All of them depended on the decisions made in this room. After a moment, Captain Adams spoke. "It's time to begin the next phase." Several officers looked up. One of them asked quietly, "Are we activating the project?" Captain Adam gave a short nod. "Yes." The officer immediately began sending encrypted signals through deep space communication channels. These signals were not directed toward any normal colony or station. Instead, they were aimed far beyond the outer planets of the Sol system, far into the darkness where almost no ships ever traveled. Hours later, the signal reached its destination. In the distant cold regions beyond Pluto, hidden inside drifting asteroid fields and dark clouds of space dust, something enormous waited. For many years, it had remained silent. But now the signal had arrived. Deep inside the massive structure, lights slowly turned on. Huge power systems began activating. Massive reactor cores warmed up after years of quiet standby mode. Across the surface of the gigantic vessel, thousands of small service drones woke up and began checking systems. Engines the size of cities slowly started preparing for operation. Inside the enormous hangars, rows of sleek human fighters rested quietly, waiting for orders. Entire fleets of support ships were docked within the massive structure. All of them ready. All of them hidden from the galaxy for decades. Back on Earth, most citizens still lived normal lives. They watched news reports about the Dominion and hoped the conflict would stay far away from their home. Few people knew how serious the situation truly was. Even fewer knew about the massive project hidden in deep space. But in secret military command centers across Earth, preparations were already underway. Generals studied battle plans. Engineers checked weapon systems. Communication officers monitored every movement of the Dominion scouts. Humanity was ready. Several days later, a new report reached Captain Adam. Dominion forces had moved even closer to human territory. A larger fleet had been detected. It was no longer just scouts. The invasion fleet was beginning to gather. Captain Adam looked at the report quietly. Then he gave a single order. "Prepare the Supercarrier." Far away in the dark outer system, the giant engines of the hidden vessel slowly began to glow. For decades, it had waited in silence. Now, for the first time, Earth's greatest secret was preparing to move. Rocket. Several weeks passed after the council meeting. During that time, the galaxy watched the Dominion carefully. Every movement of their fleets was reported and studied. Traders, explorers, and military patrols all sent updates to the Galactic Council. And slowly, the reports became more worrying. A massive Dominion fleet had begun moving toward the frontier regions of space, toward human territory. The fleet was enormous. It contained hundreds of warships, battleships, cruisers, carriers, and support vessels. Their dark metal hulls reflected the cold light of distant stars as they traveled through space in perfect formation. Each ship was built for war. Their weapons were powerful enough to destroy entire cities. Their shields could survive heavy attacks from most enemy fleets. Behind the main fleet were transport ships and supply carriers. These ships carried troops, equipment, and materials needed to take control of conquered worlds. This was not just a patrol force. This was an invasion fleet. News of the Dominion fleet spread quickly across the galaxy. Many species began watching human space with great interest. Some believed the Dominion would soon destroy Earth. Others thought humans would surrender before the fighting began. Either way, most of the galaxy expected the same result. The Dominion would win. Inside the Galactic Council, several leaders held emergency discussions again. Some council members suggested sending help to Earth, but others quickly rejected the idea. The Dominion fleet was too strong. Sending a small defense force would only lead to more losses. In the end, the council made no real decision. They simply watched and waited. Meanwhile, the Dominion fleet continued its journey. After several days of travel, their ships reached the outer edge of the Sol system. Sensors on the human defense stations quickly detected them. The warning was sent across Earth immediately. The Dominion had arrived. From the bridge of the Dominion flagship, the fleet commander studied the system in front of him. His name was Commander Rex. He was a tall and serious officer who had led many successful invasions for the Dominion. Under his command, entire star systems had fallen quickly and completely. To him, this mission seemed simple. Earth was a young world with a small fleet. Resistance would be short. Commander Rex looked at the display screens showing the planets of the Sol system. "Scan for defense fleets," he ordered. Dominion sensor officers quickly began their work. Minutes passed. Then one officer spoke. "Commander, we detect several small defense ships near the inner planets." Another officer added, "Planetary defense stations are active, but their weapon systems appear limited." Commander Rex nodded. Exactly what he expected. Human defenses were weak compared to the power of the Dominion fleet. "Send them the standard message," he ordered calmly. A communication officer activated the long-range transmitter. Across space, a powerful signal traveled toward Earth. Soon it appeared on human communication networks and defense screens. The message was simple. "People of Earth, this system now belongs to the Dominion." The message continued. "Surrender immediately and join the Dominion Empire. If you resist, your defenses will be destroyed." There was a short pause before the final line. "You have 1 hour to respond." Across Earth, the message spread quickly. News networks reported the arrival of the Dominion fleet. Images from space stations showed the massive enemy armada floating near the outer edge of the system. Many people watched in fear. The fleet looked enormous. Thousands of dark ships blocked the stars. For many citizens, it seemed impossible that humanity could defeat such power. Inside the United Earth Defense Command, military leaders gathered around large holographic displays. They watched the Dominion fleet movements carefully. Several generals spoke quietly to each other. "The fleet is larger than expected," one officer said. Another replied, "Yes. They brought a full invasion force." Captain Adams stood near the center of the command room. He listened to the reports calmly. There was no panic on his face. Instead, he looked thoughtful. After a moment, he turned toward the communication officer. "How much time remains?" he asked. 40 minutes, the officer replied. Captain Adam nodded slowly. Then he gave a short order. "Send the signal." The officer entered a command code and transmitted a powerful encrypted message into deep space. The signal traveled far beyond the inner planets, far beyond the orbit of Neptune, far into the dark outer regions of the Sol system. On the Dominion flagship, Commander Rex waited patiently. He expected one of two responses. Either the humans would surrender, or they would try to fight. In either case, the outcome seemed obvious. The Dominion fleet had never lost a battle against a young civilization. Earth would be no different. At least, that was what Commander Rex believed. Far away in the cold darkness beyond the outer planets, the encrypted signal finally reached its destination. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, enormous engines began to ignite. The quiet void of space slowly filled with deep vibrations. Lights turned on across a massive hidden structure. A structure larger than any warship the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's secret supercarrier had awakened. Rocket. The Dominion fleet waited at the edge of the Sol system. Hundreds of warships floated in perfect formation, their dark metal hulls reflecting faint starlight. The fleet looked like a giant wall blocking the path to Earth. Inside the Dominion flagship, Commander Rex watched the countdown clock on the main screen. 30 minutes remained. The humans had still not answered the Dominion's demand. Commander Rex was not surprised. Many young civilizations needed time to accept the reality of their situation. Fear often made leaders hesitate, but in the end, most of them made the same choice. They surrendered. Dominion officers quietly worked around the bridge. Sensor operators scanned the system again and again, searching for hidden fleets or unexpected defenses. So far, the results were exactly what they expected. A few small human patrol ships moved near Earth and Mars. Some defense platforms floated near the planets. But compared to the Dominion fleet, these defenses were almost nothing. One officer looked at the sensor display and spoke. "Commander, no large human fleets detected." Commander Rax nodded calmly. "Continue scanning," he said. He always preferred to be careful, even when the enemy seemed weak. Back on Earth, the situation was very different. Inside the United Earth Defense Command, dozens of officers watched the same countdown clock. The Dominion message was displayed on every screen. 27 minutes remained. The command room was quiet, but the silence was heavy. Everyone knew the enemy fleet was powerful enough to destroy Earth's defenses easily. But no one showed panic. Human leaders had already made their decision. Captain Adams stood near the center of the room, watching several displays at the same time. One screen showed the Dominion fleet. Another showed the movement of human defense ships. But the most important screen displayed something else. It showed the outer regions of the solar system. Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, a communication officer suddenly spoke. "Captain, confirmation received." Captain Adam turned. "The signal has reached its destination." Several officers in the room looked toward him. "Any response?" one of them asked. The communication officer checked the incoming data carefully. Then he smiled slightly. "Yes." Far away in the dark outer system, the signal had finally awakened something that had been silent for many years. Inside the enormous hidden structure, power systems continued activating one by one. Huge reactor cores began producing massive amounts of energy. The deep hum of powerful engines slowly filled the giant ship. Thousands of automated drones moved through its corridors and hangars, checking systems and preparing for operation. The Supercarrier was waking up. Inside its massive hangars, rows of advanced human fighter craft sat ready. These fighters were small compared to the giant ship around them, but they were extremely fast and heavily armed. Each one was designed for space combat against larger enemy ships. Nearby, entire squadrons of support vessels waited quietly. Repair ships, supply carriers, drone control ships. Everything needed for a long battle. Deep within the heart of the massive vessel, the central command system finished processing the encrypted signal from Earth. The order was simple. Activate. Prepare for deployment. Large navigation systems slowly came online. Advanced targeting computers began scanning nearby space. The Supercarrier was not just a ship. It was a floating fortress, a mobile fleet base, a weapon designed for one purpose: war. Back near Earth, the Dominion fleet still waited. 15 minutes remained. Commander Rax watched the clock carefully. He expected the human answer at any moment. One of his officers suddenly spoke. "Commander, we detect a communications signal from Earth." Rax turned toward the screen. "Display it." The signal appeared across the bridge display. But instead of a surrender message or diplomatic response, the signal was something else. A short burst of encrypted data. Then the transmission ended. Commander Rax frowned. "What was that?" The sensor officer quickly analyzed the signal. "It was not directed toward us," the officer said. "Then where was it sent?" The officer looked at the sensor map. "Toward the outer system." Commander Rax raised an eyebrow. "A distress signal?" "Possibly," the officer replied. Some Dominion crew members laughed quietly. Humans were probably calling for help that would never arrive. No nearby civilization could reach them in time. Back on Earth, the final minutes of the Dominion countdown continued. But Captain Adam was no longer watching the timer. Instead, he was watching the outer system display. Small lights suddenly appeared on the screen. Engine signatures. Massive ones. An officer looked at the readings and widened his eyes. "It's moving." Captain Adam gave a calm nod. "Good." Far away in the cold darkness beyond the planets, the giant engines of the hidden Supercarrier finally ignited. The enormous ship slowly began to move through space. Its engines burned brighter than small stars. For decades, it had remained hidden. Now it was finally leaving its silent home. And it was heading straight toward the Dominion fleet. Rocket. The Dominion fleet continued waiting near the edge of the Sol system. From the bridge of the flagship, Commander Rax watched the quiet star field outside the large viewing window. Everything looked calm and empty. To him, it seemed like the humans had made a desperate attempt to call for help. But help would not arrive. The Dominion fleet had already secured the system entrance. Any outside ships would be detected long before they could reach Earth. Commander Rax folded his hands behind his back. "Begin preparing the attack formations," he ordered calmly. Several officers nodded and began entering commands. Dominion warships slowly adjusted their positions. Large cruisers moved toward the front of the formation while carrier ships prepared their fighter squadrons. Even though the humans had not officially surrendered yet, the Dominion commander had no intention of waiting much longer. Earth would fall today. Inside the Dominion flagship, the sensor teams continued scanning the system. Their screens showed the usual activity: planets orbiting the sun, small human ships near Earth, and a few defense stations protecting the inner planets. Everything appeared normal. But then something strange appeared on the outer system scanners. One of the sensor officers frowned and leaned closer to his display. "Commander, we're detecting something unusual." Commander Rax turned his head slightly. "What is it?" The officer adjusted the sensor filters. "At first we thought it was background energy from distant stars, but the signal is growing stronger." Another sensor officer joined the analysis. "It looks like engine signatures." Commander Rax's eyes narrowed. "From where?" The officer pointed toward the far outer edge of the system, beyond Neptune. For a moment, the bridge grew quiet. That region of space was extremely empty. Few ships ever traveled that far away from the inner planets. Commander Rax stepped closer to the main display. "Enhance the sensor image." The large screen zoomed in on the distant area. At first, there was nothing but darkness. Then faint lights began to appear. Small energy readings. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Back on Earth, the command center was alive with activity. Officers moved quickly between stations while screens displayed the same readings. The hidden vessel was no longer hidden. Captain Adams stood near the central display as the outer system map updated every few seconds. An officer spoke with excitement in his voice. "The Supercarrier has begun acceleration." Another officer added, "All escort ships are moving with it." On the screen, dozens of small lights surrounded one massive signal. The formation was heading directly toward the Dominion fleet. Far away in the outer system, the enormous structure finally revealed its full power. The Supercarrier was larger than anything humanity had ever built before. Its body stretched for kilometers across space. Its surface was covered with powerful weapon systems, shield generators, and massive hangar openings. From those hangars, hundreds of small fighter ships began launching one after another. Each fighter quickly formed organized squadrons around the giant vessel. Behind them, escort ships moved into formation. Destroyers, cruisers, drone carriers, all of them hidden for years. All of them finally moving together. The engines of the Supercarrier burned brightly as it pushed through the dark void of space. The power of its engines created massive energy trails that could now be detected from great distances. For decades, these engines had remained silent. Now they roared like thunder in the vacuum of space. Back on the Dominion flagship, the sensor team stared at their screens in confusion. The energy readings kept growing stronger. Much stronger. "Commander, the number of engine signatures is increasing rapidly." Commander Rax crossed his arms. "How many ships?" The officer looked uncertain. "We are still calculating." Seconds passed. Then the officer spoke again. "At least several hundred smaller vessels." Commander Rax remained calm. "That is still not enough to challenge our fleet." But the officer had not finished speaking. "There is also one very large energy source." The commander looked at him sharply. "How large?" The officer hesitated before answering. "Larger than any warship we have on record." The bridge became silent. Commander Rax slowly turned toward the main display. "Show it." The screen zoomed further into the outer system. For a moment, the image remained dark. Then a massive shape slowly appeared from the shadows of space. Even at extreme sensor distance, its size was obvious. It was enormous. far larger than any Dominion battleship. Several officers stared in disbelief. "That cannot be correct," one of them whispered. Commander Rax did not speak for a few seconds. His eyes studied the giant shape carefully. Then he asked one question. "Identify the vessel." The sensor officer scanned the signal again. After a moment, the answer appeared on the screen. "Unknown human vessel." Back on Earth, Captain Atom watched the same image appear on the command display. For years, the galaxy believed humanity was weak. Now the truth was finally leaving the shadows. The Supercarrier was coming, and soon, the entire galaxy would see it. Rocket. Across the Sol system, sensors from many worlds were watching the same thing. The mysterious object coming from the outer system. At first, the signals were unclear. The object was still far away, and space was full of background radiation and cosmic dust. But every minute, the signal grew stronger. Stronger and larger. Inside the Dominion flagship, Commander Rax stood in front of the main display as the sensor image slowly became clearer. The shape that appeared on the screen made several officers freeze. It was massive, far larger than any normal warship. "Range update," Commander Rax ordered. The sensor officer quickly checked the readings. Object closing distance rapidly. Estimated arrival to engagement range in 30 minutes. The officer paused, then added quietly, "Commander, it is still accelerating." Commander Rax stared at the screen. The unknown vessel was not just large. It was surrounded by many smaller ships flying in organized formations. Fighter squadrons, escort ships, drone carriers. It looked like an entire fleet moving together. But the giant object in the center was clearly the most important part. Back on Earth, the command center was watching the same data. Captain Atom stood near the central holographic display. The Supercarrier's position was now visible to every defense station in the system. Human officers looked both excited and serious. Years of secret work had led to this moment. One officer spoke quietly. "Dominion sensors must have detected it by now." Captain Atom nodded. "Yes." Another officer smiled slightly. "They're probably confused." Captain Atom allowed himself a small smile. That was the idea. Far away near the Dominion fleet, Commander Rax continued studying the unknown ship. More details were appearing on the screen as the distance became smaller. The vessel was enormous. Its long armored body stretched through space like a floating fortress. Large structures covered its surface, weapon towers, shield projectors, and massive engine systems. Even the hangars looked gigantic. Commander Rax had commanded many battles in his career. He had seen large ships before, but nothing like this. One of the Dominion officers spoke nervously. "Commander, the vessel's mass readings are extremely high." Another officer added, "Energy output is also increasing." Commander Rax frowned. "How many weapons does it have?" The sensor officer shook his head. "We are still counting. There are too many systems to identify clearly." Then another report arrived. Multiple smaller vessels launching from the main ship. The screen zoomed in further. Hundreds of sleek human fighters were flying out of the massive hangars. They quickly formed organized attack squadrons around the giant vessel. Behind them, larger escort ships joined the formation. Cruisers, destroyers, drone control ships, all of them protecting the Supercarrier. For the first time since the mission began, the Dominion officers looked uncertain. One of them spoke quietly. "This was hidden inside the Sol system?" Commander Rax did not answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the massive ship moving toward them. Then he asked a simple question. "How long until they reach our fleet?" 20 minutes. Across the galaxy, observers were now watching the situation closely. The Galactic Council had received emergency reports from long-range monitoring stations. The unknown human vessel had been detected. A massive holographic map appeared in the council chamber, showing the Sol system. Delegates from many species stared at the new object on the map. Some of them could not believe the readings. "That cannot be correct," one council member said. "Humans do not have ships that size." Another delegate leaned closer to the display. But the data confirms it. Back near the Dominion fleet, the massive vessel was now fully visible. For the first time, Dominion cameras captured a clear visual image. The supercarrier looked like a giant moving city in space. Rows of weapons lined its surface. Shield generators glowed faintly along its armored hull. Thousands of lights from internal systems shined across its massive structure. And behind it, its enormous engines burned like small suns. Commander Rax watched the image carefully.
This was no ordinary ship.
It was a mobile fortress, a war machine designed for massive battles. One of his officers spoke again. "Commander, the vessel is transmitting a signal." Rax turned his head. "Put it on the screen." The communication officer activated the channel. A calm human voice filled the bridge. "This is the United Earth Defense Fleet." There was a short pause. "You are now inside human territory." The voice continued, clear and steady. "Leave this system immediately, or face destruction." Silence filled the Dominion bridge. Commander Rax stared at the giant vessel approaching his fleet. For the first time, he began to realize something important. Humanity had been hiding its true strength. And now the entire galaxy was about to see it. The supercarrier was almost in range, and the battle for Earth was about to begin. Rocket! The silence of space was broken by the sudden hum of massive engines. The Dominion fleet, confident in its overwhelming power, began to move forward. Hundreds of warships shifted into attack formations, their weapons primed and ready. Commander Rax's eyes gleamed with anticipation. In his mind, victory over Earth would be swift. But he had not yet seen what humanity had hidden. The supercarrier led the human fleet like a colossal sentinel. Its engines glowed like small suns, pushing it steadily toward the enemy. Hundreds of smaller human vessels surrounded it, forming layers of protection. Sleek fighters darted in and out, scanning for Dominion ships. Drone carriers hovered behind, ready to release automated fleets at a moment's notice. Captain Adam watched the holographic display on the command bridge of the supercarrier. "Deploy the first wave," he ordered calmly. Engineers and pilots had waited decades for this moment. Within seconds, thousands of autonomous fighter drones shot out from hangars, their engines flaring like bright streaks against the darkness. They moved with perfect coordination, forming attack squadrons with precision no Dominion commander had ever witnessed. Commander Rax narrowed his eyes as Dominion sensors detected the movement. "Identify them," he barked. An officer checked the readings frantically. "They're not normal fighters. They are autonomous, highly advanced, and armed with energy weapons capable of destroying smaller cruisers in one hit." Rax's confidence faltered slightly, but he quickly composed himself. "Fire the main cannons. Target the supercarrier first." Dominion turrets opened fire, releasing a barrage of massive plasma beams toward the approaching human warship. The beams illuminated the darkness, heading straight for the massive vessel. The supercarrier's shields activated. Energy fields of immense strength flared across its hull, absorbing the incoming fire. The plasma beams disintegrated harmlessly against the layered shields. A low hum of power resonated across the massive ship, showing that humanity's hidden engineering far surpassed the expectations of every observer. The Dominion fleet did not expect such resistance. "Commander, their shields, they're absorbing all firepower," one officer stammered. Rax gritted his teeth. "Increase power to the forward cannons. Fire everything." But every shot was met with the same result. The human supercarrier moved steadily forward, unaffected, while swarms of drones darted toward the Dominion fleet, striking cruisers and destroyers with deadly precision. The Dominion fleet began to panic as their ships were destroyed faster than they could respond. Energy beams sliced through their hulls, tearing apart formations that had been considered invincible. Fighter squadrons from the supercarrier overwhelmed the smaller Dominion ships, while drone carriers released fleets of attack drones that struck simultaneously from multiple directions. A massive cruiser exploded in a flash of light, its debris scattering across the void. Another battleship was hit by a coordinated strike from 3 human drones at once, tearing its hull open and leaving it drifting uselessly in space. The Dominion fleet had never encountered a coordinated, precise, and overwhelmingly powerful strike like this. In the midst of the battle, Captain Adam watched the progress on his display. "Target the remaining command ships," he ordered. "Use rail cannons and energy lances. Take them out first." Across the fleet, thousands of weapons fired simultaneously. Dominion flagship shields glowed under the concentrated assault. Sparks and explosions tore through its hull as energy lances sliced the armor cleanly. Dominion officers shouted orders, trying desperately to save their command vessels, but it was too late. The fleet's formation collapsed. Confusion spread as more ships were destroyed, leaving survivors scattered and vulnerable. For observers across the galaxy, this battle was astonishing. Reports from long-range monitoring stations streamed in, showing footage of the Dominion fleet collapsing under the force of humanity's hidden strength. Species that had always dismissed humans as weak and insignificant could not believe what they were seeing. Even the Galactic Council was stunned. Many delegates had expected a quick surrender. Instead, they witnessed a disciplined, precise, and technologically superior force emerging from a small planet at the edge of the galaxy. After only a few hours, the Dominion fleet was in full retreat. Their largest ships were destroyed or disabled, and the surviving vessels fled toward the outer systems. Commander Rax watched helplessly as his fleet disintegrated. "Retreat," he ordered, his voice tight with anger. "Fall back, fall back." It was the first time in centuries that a Dominion fleet had been defeated in open space. Back aboard the Supercarrier, Captain Adam remained calm. His officers celebrated quietly. The fleet had performed flawlessly. Every weapon system worked as intended. Every fighter, drone, and escort ship had acted with precision. The humans had not only defended their home, they had shown the galaxy that their hidden strength was beyond imagination. Captain Adam looked out at the stars, where the remnants of the Dominion fleet were retreating. "Prepare for recovery and defense," he said. "But remember, this is only the beginning." For the first time in the history of the galaxy, humanity had proven its true power. And the galaxy would never underestimate them again. Rocket. The Dominion fleet had retreated, but the echoes of the battle lingered across the galaxy. In the outer systems, scattered survivors drifted among the debris of destroyed ships. Their communications were filled with confusion, fear, and disbelief. No one had ever imagined a small, isolated planet like Earth could produce such devastating power. On Earth, the command centers were quiet but tense. The victory was complete, yet everyone knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion had been just one of many threats waiting in the galaxy. Captain Adam stood on the bridge of the Supercarrier, his eyes scanning the aftermath reports. "Status update," he said calmly. Officers immediately responded. "All enemy ships destroyed or retreating," one officer reported. "Minimal human losses. Damage to the Supercarrier is within expected limits." Another officer added, "Fighters and drones returning to hangars. Shields are stable. Weapon systems are fully operational." Adam nodded. His expression remained steady. To outsiders, it would have seemed like just another routine briefing, but the truth was far more significant. For decades, humanity had followed a strategy that the galaxy had never suspected. While other civilizations competed openly, building fleets to display strength and using diplomacy to gain influence, humans had quietly prepared in silence. Their engineers worked on experimental weapons hidden in asteroid belts. Scientists designed advanced shielding systems that could absorb more energy than most starships could generate. Entire shipyards were built far from prying eyes, assembling the largest warships the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had not relied on politics, reputation, or intimidation. They had relied on preparation, patience, and innovation. And now, all of that preparation had paid off. Back on Earth, Council observers and allied civilizations were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Did Earth really have the largest supercarrier in the galaxy? One ambassador whispered to another.
I don't understand, another replied.
How could a young species build such a fleet in secret? Humanity had achieved something nearly impossible. They had hidden decades of development from every species capable of noticing. Every sensor sweep, every spy probe, every council inspection had failed to reveal the true scale of human power. Inside the Supercarrier, Captain Atom reviewed long-term plans. "Our goal is not to destroy the galaxy," he reminded his officers. "Our goal is to ensure humanity survives and that we have the freedom to exist safely." A younger officer looked puzzled. "But why not take control of the Dominion while we can?" Atom shook his head. "That is not the way of humanity. We do not conquer for power. We prepare so no one can threaten us." It was a principle humanity had followed for centuries. Never underestimate your enemy, but never overreach in aggression. Their strategy had been defensive, yet lethal in execution. Reports from the battle flooded in from remote monitoring stations. The Dominion fleet had assumed that Earth would surrender. They had underestimated humanity completely. And that was the key to the strategy. By letting the galaxy underestimate them, humans had built the ultimate surprise weapon. The Dominion had moved into striking range without fear, believing victory was certain. But every calculation, every plan, had been anticipated by humans in advance. The Supercarrier had been the final piece. Its arrival, combined with the precision of autonomous drones, advanced fighters, and escort fleets, had turned the entire battle in a matter of minutes. In private chambers, Captain Atom and his advisors reviewed enemy tactics. "The Dominion made every predictable move," one officer noted. "They assumed Earth would panic. They assumed we could be intimidated. They never expected a coordinated, overwhelming strike." Atom nodded. "That is the point. Their arrogance was their weakness. They never thought a young species could outthink centuries of experience. Humanity had learned from every other empire in the galaxy, studying their strategies and mistakes. They had adapted, improved, and created solutions faster than anyone else expected. Outside the command center, the galaxy was changing. News of the battle traveled faster than any diplomatic message. Ambassadors and leaders began reconsidering their assumptions about humans. For centuries, Earth had been seen as weak, insignificant, and harmless. Now, every species in the galaxy knew differently. Captain Atom looked out through the bridge's large viewing screen. Stars stretched into the distance, silent witnesses to humanity's triumph. He knew this was only the first demonstration of their power. The Dominion had been defeated, yes, but the galaxy contained other threats. Other empires, other fleets, other ambitions. Humanity's strategy was clear. They would continue to prepare in secret. They would continue to grow stronger. They would remain patient. And when the galaxy tried to challenge them again, humanity would be ready. For now, Earth had shown one undeniable truth. The galaxy had underestimated them at its own peril. Captain Atom turned to his officers, his voice calm but commanding. "Recovery teams, begin cleanup. Shields remain active. Weapons stay online. And keep scanning. The galaxy will be watching. Let them learn what it truly means to underestimate humanity." The officers nodded. The Supercarrier moved silently back toward its hidden staging areas, ready to strike again, if necessary. Humanity had revealed its power, but only enough to teach a lesson. The galaxy would remember this day forever. And humanity's true strategy remained unchanged, patient, prepared, and unbeatable when the time came. Rocket. The Dominion fleet was in full retreat. Ships that had once projected unstoppable power now drifted aimlessly through space. Some were badly damaged, their hulls scorched and cracked from the precise attacks of human drones and energy weapons. Others had lost communication with command vessels, leaving crews panicked and disoriented. Commander Rax stared at the main display aboard his flagship. His usual calm demeanor was gone. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertainty. The human supercarrier had not only defended its home, but had shattered the confidence of the Dominion fleet in a way no one had predicted. "Retreat, all units, retreat," he barked, his voice echoing across the bridge. Several officers scrambled to carry out the order. Sensors showed fleets breaking formation as pilots desperately tried to escape. Smaller ships scattered into multiple directions, hoping to avoid the relentless human strikes. Even in retreat, the Dominion fleet faced destruction. Human fighters and drones moved like swarms of deadly insects. They struck with precision, targeting damaged vessels first. Large energy lances pierced the hulls of cruisers that had once been considered invincible. Explosions erupted across the blackness of space as Dominion ships were torn apart. A massive battleship attempted to turn and counterattack, but human rail cannons fired with such accuracy that the vessel's engines were destroyed before it could aim its weapons. Slowly, one by one, Dominion ships fell, leaving only a small fraction of the fleet able to escape. Far away, the galaxy was watching. Long-range monitors had captured the battle from multiple points across space. Observers from the Galactic Council, traders, and even rival empires were stunned. Humans, a species considered weak, insignificant, and unprepared, had destroyed one of the largest fleets the galaxy had seen in decades. Messages flooded across galactic networks. Words like unbelievable, impossible, and incredible appeared repeatedly. Many civilizations began reconsidering their assumptions about Earth and its people. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Now, the galaxy had no choice but to notice. Back aboard the Supercarrier, Captain Adam remained calm. Reports of Dominion losses were displayed on the central holographic map. The humans had suffered minimal casualties, and all major systems on the Supercarrier were fully operational. Fighters and drones returned to hangars, recharging and resupplying automatically. Status report, Adam commanded. Enemy fleet retreating in multiple directions, one officer said. Damage minimal to our forces. All units accounted for. Adam nodded.
Good.
Maintain defensive positions. Let them learn the consequences of underestimating humanity. The Dominion survivors were disorganized. Many ships were crippled, drifting in space with no engines or weapons. Crews attempted to repair critical systems while avoiding pursuit. Commander Rax issued constant orders, but communication breakdowns and panic slowed every maneuver. On distant sensors, Dominion fleets from other regions of the galaxy had begun detecting the signs of disaster. Reports of total losses reached their leaders. The Dominion Empire, which had seemed invincible, was now humiliated by a small planet at the edge of space. News of the retreat spread faster than the Dominion could recover. Other civilizations began sending reconnaissance fleets to study what had happened. Traders paused shipments to the region. The Galactic Council issued emergency briefings. Everyone wanted to understand what humans had done, and how a small species could create such a massive weapon in secret. Even friendly species were in awe. They admired the precision, the planning, and the technology humanity had displayed. Back on Earth, life continued as usual. Citizens went about their routines, unaware of the full scale of the battle taking place in the void beyond their planet. Most had no idea that the Supercarrier was the reason the Dominion had been defeated so decisively. Only a small number of humans knew the truth, that their species had finally made the galaxy pay attention. Captain Adam gathered his senior officers in the bridge. "We have shown our strength," he said calmly, "but the galaxy will not stop testing us. Other empires will learn about this battle, and they may try to challenge us next. Be prepared for anything." One officer asked quietly, "Will the Dominion retaliate?" Adam looked at the view of space stretching into infinity. Stars sparkled like distant eyes, watching their every move. "They will try, but they will think twice next time." As the Supercarrier slowly returned to its hidden staging areas beyond the outer planets, the galaxy was left in shock. The Dominion had underestimated humanity. They had assumed Earth was weak and insignificant. Instead, they had discovered a truth that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans were not only capable of defending themselves, they could strike with precision, intelligence, and devastating power. For the first time in history, the galaxy realized that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. And humanity had done it quietly, patiently, and without unnecessary aggression. The Dominion retreat was not just a military failure, it was a lesson. One that the galaxy would never forget. rocket. The Dominion fleet had vanished into the darkness of space. For the first time in history, a young species had defeated one of the galaxy's oldest and most feared empires in open battle. The shockwaves of the confrontation traveled far beyond the Sol system, reaching planets, colonies, and stations that had never paid much attention to Earth before. Inside the Galactic Council, delegates whispered and stared at their monitors. Many were in disbelief. A small, young species, long considered weak, had just demonstrated the power to destroy fleets that had ruled entire star systems. Back on Earth, life had resumed its usual rhythm, though the hidden command centers remained vigilant. Captain Adam walked along the bridge of the Supercarrier. The massive ship now floated quietly in the outer system, shielded by darkness and hidden from casual observation. "Status report," he said to his officers. "All units accounted for," one officer reported. "No damage outside expected limits. Fighters and drones are fully operational and resupplied. Shield stable. All systems ready." Adam nodded. "Good. Maintain readiness. The galaxy has seen a glimpse of our power, but we are not finished. This is just the beginning of our story." For decades, humans had followed a strategy of preparation, patience, and innovation. They had watched, studied, and learned from older civilizations. While the galaxy focused on public displays of power, humans quietly developed technology far beyond what anyone could imagine. The Supercarrier had been the ultimate test, a massive weapon hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system, ready to unleash humanity's true strength. Its arrival had been precise, overwhelming, and devastating to the Dominion fleet. No other species had anticipated such a display, and the galaxy would never forget it. Messages from distant civilizations began reaching Earth. Some were diplomatic, offering congratulations or cautiously requesting communication. Others were messages of curiosity and fear. "How did humans achieve this?" one ambassador asked in a secure transmission. Another said bluntly, "If Earth can produce weapons like that, we will need to rethink our strategies completely. They are no longer insignificant." The galaxy was waking up to a truth that humans had known for centuries. Appearances were deceiving, and patience could create power far greater than brute force. Back on the Supercarrier, Captain Adam gathered his senior officers in the central command room. "Today, we have defended Earth and proven our strength," he began calmly. "But our work is not done. The galaxy has now seen what humans are capable of. We must continue to prepare, continue to innovate, and continue to ensure our people remain safe." One officer asked, "Should we send a message to the Galactic Council? Make a formal announcement?" Adam shook his head.
No.
"Let them see and learn. Diplomacy will come later, when the galaxy understands that humanity is not a threat to peace, but a force that cannot be ignored." For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Wars, politics, and other civilizations had all treated Earth as minor and unimportant. Now, everything had changed. The Supercarrier represented more than just a weapon. It symbolized human determination, ingenuity, and resilience. The galaxy had assumed weakness, but humans had turned patience into power. And the lesson was clear: underestimate humans at your own risk. In the outer system, the Supercarrier continued its patrol. Fighters and escort ships remained in formation, ready for any new threat. Surveillance systems scanned nearby sectors, searching for any signs of Dominion survivors or other potential dangers. Captain Adam looked out into the darkness of space, reflecting on the years of preparation that had led to this moment. The galaxy had once ignored humanity. Now it had to pay attention. Over Earth, celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Citizens were aware that a great victory had occurred, though most had little idea of the scale of the Supercarrier or the true nature of humanity's secret fleet. Stories of heroism, defense, and triumph began spreading quickly, inspiring pride and confidence across the planet. The victory was not just military. It was cultural. Humanity had stepped into a new chapter of its existence in the galaxy. Captain Adam returned to the command chair on the Supercarrier. He gave a final order for the day. Maintain all systems. Remain alert. Humanity has shown its strength, but we must continue to grow stronger. Our journey is only beginning. The officers acknowledged, and the ship hummed quietly, ready to move at a moment's notice. In the vast emptiness of space, the hidden supercarrier floated like a guardian, a symbol of Earth's determination, waiting for whatever the galaxy might send next. The Dominion had learned a bitter lesson. Earth was no longer a small, weak planet. Humans had emerged from the shadows, revealing power, strategy, and resolve far beyond what anyone expected. And the galaxy now knew the truth. A new era had begun. Humanity had arrived. And from this day forward, no species would ever forget that lesson. Rocket.